What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the broader markets. I'm also going to break down why the market's going to be in a very, very critical place heading into tomorrow, as we have Jerome Powell, the big guy, giving a speech in the evening, not to mention other catalysts that could be causing some high volatility. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below, or use my QR code right here to sign up. If you sign up for Moomoo with the link down below and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free Nvidia stock. If you deposit $2,000, you're going to get $50 worth of Nvidia. Deposits $10,000 to get $300 worth of the stock, or deposits $50,000 to get $1,000 of free Nvidia. You're also going to qualify for a 3.6% APY base rate plus a 4.5% APY extra for 3 months, making it a total of an 8.1% APY. The offer ends very soon, so please check out my link down below to sign up. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. So, as far as the market's going, as you could tell, we're seeing SPY making higher highs and higher lows. And as of right now, we're looking a bit more bullish. We're trying to climb higher, but the issue is that SPY is forming a rising wedge. I am seeing a slight possible bearish divergence that could be forming, although we have to wait for confirmation. On top of that, SPY is approaching this tough resistance near 685. And the last time we touched this, we got this big rejection on SPY. So it's going to be a very, very tough resistance. And we will see if we get some kind of rejection or not. On the triple Q, we're still looking bullish. I could see us push a little bit higher, but also you have to be careful because number one, there is tough resistance in the mid 620s. And number two, we have a rising wedge that's also forming right here on the QQQ, and that could also lead to a rejection. So what's happening for tomorrow? Why is there going to be some high volatility? What do I predict is going to happen? Let's talk about some news catalysts, and I'll break down more details about these charts. So as the market starts off looking a bit more bullish, there are some things that could kind of like affect that or even cause us to reject possibly or even change directions. It all depends on some data alongside Jerome Powell for tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be Monday, December 1st, 2025. The first day of December is here for tomorrow. At 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI coming out. And then at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the ISM Manufacturing PMI, Employment New Orders and Prices. That's going to be coming out 30 minutes after the stock market opens. We also have the 3 and 6 month bill auctions coming out at 11:30 a.m., which is not as important. But at 8 p.m., we have a speech by Jerome Powell that's going to be coming out. Now, let's actually talk about Jerome Powell's speech. Is this going to be actually at 8 o'clock p.m.? Let me just confirm this on the Fed's calendar. So it says right here at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Jerome Powell, the big guy, giving a speech. He's going to be giving very brief remarks and a panel discussion with Michael Boskin. It's going to be happening at Stanford, California. So that's very important. We will see what they end up discussing and if Jerome Powell says anything that causes volatility. I also read that he may be giving us some insights about interest rates, and his comments could cause big moves in the stock market. So keep that in mind. That's very important. Our sources suggest, once again, we're looking for the PMI and ISM data for Monday, alongside Jerome Powell's evening speech at 8 o'clock p.m. That could also cause some volatility. As Wall Street and the markets get ready for all of this, make sure you're very, very unbiased when it comes to the way in which we move with all this data coming out, because we're starting a new month. And sometimes we see algorithms adjust as a result of the change in the month. So that is something that sometimes happens with the overall market. And on top of that, please keep in mind there's an 87.4% chance we get a cut, or at least that's how much of a percentage points that the market is like pricing in, approaching FOMC on December 10th. So we're very confident there's going to be a cut. The problem is that Jerome Powell's speech, if he does say anything about interest rates, I know his comments will likely be very brief, but if he does say anything that could affect this probability, whether it comes back down, if he causes a rug pull, or if he causes this to go up even higher, helping the market run even more, we will see about that depending on what he says. One thing is certain, though, the Fed is continuing to look a little bit more dovish in terms of their policy skills and their policy making, because of what we're seeing right over here. We're also seeing the overnight repurchase agreements continuing to go up. So, for example, right here, at least for today, we even saw another increase in the data once it updated. This is now showing the Friday repurchases, and they're continuing to go up day in and day out. So that's basically telling us that the Fed is buying back treasuries, and they are transitioning away from quantitative tightening, and they're becoming more lenient on policy. That could be a good sign for FOMC. Besides that, there's not really much coming out for tomorrow. Very, very quiet data. But for Tuesday, we're going to be looking at some banks to announce their earnings alongside CrowdStrike. Not to mention for Wednesday, we basically have Dollar Tree, Macy's, Salesforce, Snowflake, and a few more. So look for some volatility then, at least for those tickers. But there's nothing too crazy coming out for earnings, at least for the week. Sorry about that. Last but not least, right now, the market still has extreme fear that's present. That still makes up the majority of sentiment. We're going to see if this basically softens as the market kind of adjusts. Sometimes the fear and greed index takes some time to move. So what happened was this was at extreme fear just like a week and a half ago, and the market was at the lows. And then as the market's just been bouncing for the entire week, this is just slowly adjusting but not really catching up as fast. But other indicators such as momentum are at neutral based off our position. So this is more neutral. And I think this is a more accurate indicator. The market is looking a bit more neutral for now until we get another reaction. And the put to call option ratio is dropping as we're seeing more puts being closed. And the VIX is still dropping quite a bit, but it's also approaching a key support. So, what do I think is going to happen to the markets? Quite simply, it depends on some data coming out for tomorrow. Don't forget, tomorrow we have some important manufacturing numbers at 9:45 a.m. and 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 15 and 30 minutes after the stock market opens. And then we have Mr. Jerome Powell giving a speech. We're bullish, higher highs and higher lows. Now, if you want to turn bearish, I would like to see us lose 675 on SPY. If 675 fails us, we could be dipping back down towards 666, very close to our 200 EMA, and then we could be dumping all the way down to the low 660s if that ends up being the case. This area right here where the previous low was, would be like the inverse head and shoulders like pattern we were looking at. That aligns with our very, very key fib levels. We were talking about our golden pocket, which also aligns right over here. If we reject near 685, the golden pockets like right over here, which happens to be very close to where this inverse head and shoulders happens to be. So in other words, this could be like a left shoulder, a head, and then possibly if we get a rejection, the right shoulder could be forming before we try to bounce. It's a theory that we get a rejection, but it's not guaranteed. So I would not just jump into shorts randomly. You need to wait for confirmation just to be safe. Now, if we're bullish, just hypothetically, if the manufacturing numbers launches higher and Mr. Jerome Powell causes this market to squeeze, you want to see 685 break. If that breaks, we could be going for basically all-time highs, very close to 690 on SPY. That's what we're going for next in case we do break out higher. So if we break 685, we're bullish. If we lose 675, we'll be more bearish. As of right now, we're looking like we're going to be testing 685 tomorrow. I think we go a little bit higher, but the problem is that as we get close to 685, right, we got this consolidation move there, then we rejected once. Another time we touched this, we dipped, retested, and then rejected. My point is we have a tendency of rejecting near 685, if not near the all-time high. So I would watch for tough resistance at those areas, and there is a possibility of a rejection because of this rising wedge, and also because of the inverse head and shoulders that's forming. That looks like this, right? There is a possibility of that. It basically looks like this. The left shoulders here, the head would be down here, and the right shoulder would be forming like this. That could be an inverse head and shoulders. So let's see, do we get some kind of rejection with the manufacturing numbers and with Jerome Powell's speech? There's a good chance it might happen, but of course we have to wait for confirmation. So let's see if the rising wedge pans out, number one, and if we get some kind of big rejection near 685, that would give us some more symmetrical structure if that ends up being the case. So I do think that the rising wedge could pan out and we could be looking for a rejection on SPY, but we'll see just to be safe. So I'm going to wait for confirmation and be very patient with this. Tomorrow, I anticipate more upside. I think we could be slowly pushing for like 685 or so. But as time goes on, I would not rule out the possibility of us getting a rug pull. It's possible. I do lean a bit more in favor of that, but I will see just to be safe. So always be unbiased when trying to trade. For the triple Q, we have a very similar setup. So one thing I'm also looking at is the possibility of a left shoulder, a head, and then this right shoulder, which would basically help us bounce and then continue to squeeze. Now, when it comes to the right shoulder, we've been on this nice rally, but notice that we basically have this rising wedge like this. So we're going to see if we rise a bit into like the mid 620s, and then if we get a big rug pull, or if we keep pushing. If we break 625, we're looking for an attempt to fill this gap back up to 630. We could be going to 630 to fill the gap if we break 625. But if we come short and we kind of like hit this consolidation, then we could be looking for a big rejection and then move right back down. So if anything, there's a rising wedge right here as we continue to climb higher, but then we're going to see if we reject near 625. I believe that we climb a little bit higher on tech. We could slowly consolidate and push back up to 620, if not 625, for a little bit more upside. But then there is a risk of us getting a rejection in case we don't break 625, and I do think that's the most likely possibility. However, I can't be 100% sure until we see and hear what Mr. Jerome Powell says during his speech. So be very, very patient with that. For the IWM Russell 2000, it's bullish, making higher highs and higher lows. To be bearish, you want to see us essentially lose 243.6. As of right now, though, we're looking for the possibility of a left shoulder ahead and then a right shoulder. If we break 250, we could be looking for basically the highs at 252 to be retested. But if we reject near or just under 250, this could still turn back down towards our EMAs and retest the 240 to 245 area before it tries to bounce. This still looks like a slanted inverse head and shoulders. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. ES is still looking a bit more bullish. This is a little bit different from SPY. It looks like SPY is like ahead of ES. If anything, it's closer to its all-time high. We have a left shoulder here. The head is down here. For the right shoulder to form, we could push a little bit more on ES. We could push another like 30 points up to about 68.80. And then if we get a rejection, we're looking for a move back down like this to form that right shoulder. Now, for now, we're bullish. As you can tell, we're making higher highs and higher lows. We have not lost 6,800 to be bearish. So there's no confirmation of downside yet. I would not be surprised if we push for 68.80. And then if we get some kind of rejection after that, so watch that very closely. On NQ, we're looking bullish. If we hold above 25,500, we're looking for an attempt to basically push up here. And if we lose 25,186, we could be turning right back down. I'm basically looking for an inverse head and shoulders, but I do think we try to climb a bit higher as we go on this uptrend to 25,600 or above. And we're going to see if we get some kind of rejection or not from there, because this is going to be where the resistance is. So NQ is still favoring some more upside for 25,600. Then we're going to see if this gets a rejection the closer we get to either this resistance or maybe a little bit lower, but we'll see about that. But for now, it still looks bullish to me. Bitcoin is a bit more bullish. Basically, we have supported 90,000. If that fails us, we're going to be looking for a move back down towards 86,900, which is where our imbalance happens to be. If we break 96,000, we could remain bullish. I would not be surprised if we consolidate and form an inverse head and shoulders before trying to break out first. So we'll see how it goes. On Tesla, we look decent. We're trying to be bullish. I think it's still bullish for now. But the closer we get to 440, the more risky it's going to become, because that's a tough resistance where we got lots of rejections. And if we end up losing 419, we're looking for a bigger move down. I think we could bounce for 435 or even the low 440s, and we're going to see if we get some kind of rug pull or not. But overall, we have a rising wedge-like pattern, and we're going to have to see what happens as time goes on. Tesla's making higher highs and higher lows. It's favoring an attempt to get closer to 440. Then we're going to see if it turns back down towards 419. On Nvidia, we're technically making lower highs, and lower highs. Unless we get back above 185, we're actually going to be favoring more downside, and we could be looking for a move back down towards 175. So I think we favor some downside here. We're going to see if we bounce here first before we continue to fall back down, but overall, this setup still looks a bit more bearish to me. Apple is also trading sideways right here. I'm not seeing a nice clear direction yet. As we touch 280, we like to reject, and as we get close to 275, we like to bounce. I think we retest 275, but I just see consolidation for now until we break a direction. But overall, there is a risk of some rejection. Looking at Netflix, the overall setup is looking a bit more bullish to me because we have an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. And overall, I think we could continue to bounce. I see consolidation between 108 and 106, then could be going higher for like 110. MSTR is kind of consolidating. We have a nice double bottom here. It's stuck between this range right here between 185 and 175. I think we just consolidate for now until we break a direction, so we're still kind of stuck. For Celsius, we also have an inverse head and shoulders. We could retest 40.45. We're going to see if we bounce back up to 42.42. But overall, the inverse head and shoulders prevails. On Supermicro, we have a nice looking double bottom here. As long as you don't end up losing 33.3, we're going to be favoring a move back up towards 35.34. On balance, if we break past 169, we're looking for 174 next. I think we consolidate and slowly push back up towards 172. On Rivian, we have a nice looking accumulation right here. As long as we don't lose the 16 area, we're still favoring an attempt to get back up to 17.5 for some temporary upside. SoFi also has an inverse head and shoulders. It has not lost 28.14 yet, so we're still favoring an attempt to get back up to the low 30s. So 30 to 31 is likely coming next. AMD has a double bottom here. It's still favoring an attempt to go to 223 for some temporary upside. I still favor upside for now until we get a rejection. AMD has a double bottom. It's favoring 139 as our target. PayPal is also looking a bit more bullish, favoring the 63s. And then Coinbase has an inverse head and shoulders. As long as we don't lose 270, we're favoring consolidation, then an attempt to get back up to 280 plus. Amazon also has a nice looking inverse head and shoulders. As long as we don't lose 230, we're going to be favoring consolidation, then an attempt for basically 235 to 236 for some upside. On Meta, we're looking a bit more bullish. We're going to be favoring 650 and see if that breaks. If it does, we're looking for essentially 660 next, but I favor some upside. Google's technically on a bit of a downtrend, so it could be tipping back down to 315, then 310. And we're going to see if we bounce or not, but overall, this is on a bit of a downtrend. We're going to see if we bounce, so it's showing some weakness. Microsoft also has an inverse head and shoulders. As long as we don't lose 490, we could be looking for a nice bounce and a break towards 497. On Oracle is also looking quite decent right now. It has not broken any key resistance yet, but it's just consolidating in this range. I want to see us break 203.6. If we can, we could be looking for a small bounce to 205. Last but not least, the VIX is dumping, but one thing that's worth noting is that the VIX does have a tendency of bouncing near the 15 area. So if you look back on the VIX, since October, we do tend to bounce near 15, and we're going to see if we get a temporary bounce or not from the VIX very soon. Might dip a bit first towards the 15s again before we attempt to bounce. And the dollar may also try to rebound back up to 99.6. So overall, guys, I think that the market goes a bit higher. SPY could go for like 685, and the QQQ is looking for 620 and possibly as high as 625. But with the rising wedges and possible inverse head and shoulders, there is a risk of rejection on SPY, the QQQ, ES, and for the overall market. So be careful, guys. I think we try to go a bit higher for now. And then we're going to see if we test the resistance levels I called out and how the manufacturing numbers alongside Jerome Powell's speech tomorrow night, how it ends up affecting the market. So we will see what Jerome Powell has to say if he causes some volatility alongside what the manufacturing numbers cause. Until then, though, I thank you all so much for listening. Please have an awesome rest of your guys' days. Enjoy the rest of your guys' Thanksgiving weekends. And I'll be back very, very soon tomorrow before market open. Until then, I wish you all the best and peace out.